My worst wipeout was, well, I ate it. I like poked on the first wave of the set, and then I popped up out the back. I didn't get sucked over, and that next wave was one that no one wanted. It was 25 feet, and the guys were scratching over it, and I was right in the bowl, and I was like, oh my gosh, like the worst situation ever. So I just started swimming at the wave. Like I got to get under the lip, and then the lip went over, and my board, I had a 20-foot quarter, 15-foot quarter, 20-foot quarter, whatever, and I didn't pull the board close to me before I dove down, so it was all the way out. So when the lip landed on the board, it broke the board and pulled me back through. Like probably was going to go back through anyways, because it was I wasn't swimming very fast with that big of a wave, and then I just got beat all the way through, wave after wave, to the rocks.
Wow.
And in the rocks, I had my leash on, and my board was 20 foot away, my half a board, and the leash got caught on the rocks. And then basically just flattening me out for like 7 waves, where I thought like, I'm dead. I'm going to die right here.
Are you ready, boys? Start swimming.
That's Darryl "Flea" Virostko. I'm Jamie Brisick. This is Soundings, brought to you by the Surface Journal. The Journal is a member-supported publication made possible by sponsorship from FCS, Finisterre, Howler Brothers, Patagonia, Rainbow, Vans, and Yeti. More like a book than a magazine, the Journal delivers 136 pages of independent storytelling every 8 weeks, covering the people, culture, travel, and art of surfing. If you want to learn more, if you'd like to subscribe, please visit surfacejournal.com. Born and raised in Santa Cruz, California, Flea started surfing in 1975 at age 4. I first knew of him in the 90s as an aerialist at Steamer Lane. I had no idea of what he could do in monster surf. At the debut Mavericks contest in 1999, I watched him fall out of the sky, airdrop even, on terrifying, slate-gray, cold-ass waves. He took off deeper than his opponents. He got a barrel. And with bleach blonde hair covered in black polka dots, he raised the $15,000 victory check overhead. There was an edge to Flea. Later, he'd say that he first surfed Mavericks in 1991 while high on acid. In a 2002 Vanity Fair piece, Flea was described as, quote, the Tommy Lee of surfing, strangely magnetic, smelling of beer, and utterly careless, unquote. When asked how he trained for big waves, Flea replied, I beat off a lot. Flea won a total of 3 Mavericks events, 1999, 2000, and 2004. This is from the venerable Encyclopedia of Surfing. In 2007, while partying, Flea fell 50 feet down a beachside cliff just north of his house, suffered a compound fracture of his left forearm, and was airlifted to a hospital. In a Surfer magazine interview that followed, Virostko said that the previous year he'd been drinking half a gallon of vodka a day and smoking meth every few hours. He also allowed that he often surfed Mavericks while high. 2 months after his accident, Virostko checked into a rehab center when he blew red zone .28 on the breathalyzer. But he stayed with the program and got sober. In 2014, Virostko opened the nonprofit FleaHab Sober Living Environment in a 6-bedroom residential house in nearby Capitola. 2 years earlier, he announced his retirement from big wave surfing. Flea and I spoke in the living room of his home near Steamer Lane. Flea, welcome to the show.
Okay, sounds good.
So, how did you find your way into riding giant waves?
Mostly just growing up at Steamer Lane. And on the west side, it gets huge out there for, 15 feet. So when you're kids, when it's big, it's like, it's right there and everybody's going out. So we just got used to the big rugged conditions. It's a little less groomed over here on the west side than, say, the east side.
Yep.
So it's a little more water moving and stuff like that. So I think most of the kids over here that are on the west side are kind of drawn to bigger surf because they're right in front of it all the time. But yeah, that's kind of how it happened with just growing up in Santa Cruz on the west side, surfing the lane every day. When it got big, we were just like, whoa, look at those waves out there, and kind of just intrigued by them.
And when you were much younger, you were a short kid, right? Then your nickname Flea comes from being like a small guy.
Yeah, no, I didn't hit puberty till I was 17 years old. And that sucked. But, at high school and stuff, I was pretty small until I think I was like 11th grade or something. And, yeah, so I just looked real small surfing, and that's how VC kind of gave me that nickname.
Wow.
You
And
know?
VC is Vince Collier.
Yeah, Vince Collier.
Yep. So at that time when let's just say it's a big northwest swell, whatever, at the lane, did you feel like instantly that you weren't afraid, kind of thing? Like let's just say it's a giant swell and you're still this like young kid. Did you come in and everyone was like, wow, dude, you're charging out there, kind of thing?
Yeah, it was more just like this adrenaline, I think we got a taste of it. We started the surf team at Santa Cruz High, and I remember surfing Scotts Creek when I was real young, and it was huge for the contest. And just dropping in on some of those waves, the thirst for another one just come. It's just like it's magnetic, and it happened so many times. And I think that was the start of it for me, just being comfortable in like bigger surf,
Mhm.
and the instructions we were getting too by Richard Schmidt and by Vince, and Brenda Scott really had a big part of my life back then. She lived on my street and would bring us surfing up at 3 Mile when it was 8 feet, 10 feet. And it was, it was big surf for kids, but they were telling us how to, get to the channel, how to get in, all these things to help us feel comfortable.
Mhm.
And I feel like that really shaped our big wave surfing too.
Yep. And you would have started surfing and started riding big waves around here before Mavericks was even like on the map as a surf spot, right?
Yeah. We have big waves in Santa Cruz when the swells are huge. And when you're that big, when you're, youngster kid surfing 10 foot, 10, 12 foot steamer lane, that's like huge for you. Or big Swift Street and Mitchell's Cove, some of those waves we have. Those are pretty big. But then we started figuring out like we have to go to Hawaii every year to get photos and surf big waves. And like, so we were doing that every single year. And I feel like once we kind of were brought up to Mavericks, it was like, oh, you don't have to go anywhere.
Yeah. Do you remember the first time you heard about Mavericks as being this spot up the coast that you could go ride the biggest waves of your life?
Yeah, it was just more like this like myth, like, hey, dude, you guys don't even understand. There's waves up at Mavericks. Vince was telling us, and Richard Schmidt, and we're like, what, really? Like, it was, we thought big waves were Steamer Lane and Big Swift Street and stuff like that. So yeah, until we got up there, we didn't really understand what big waves were, really.
Do you remember your first time surfing Mavericks?
I do, yeah. And, paddling out there with Barney and Zach Acker and Vince, and just seeing these waves break, and not just seeing waves break and going, oh, that's a big wave, but like actually hearing them break, and the amount of water there that was moving was like really intense. And, we had a great session that day, and I watched some of my friends get completely smoked, Barney and Zach, and I just had 10 waves and I didn't eat shit. I was like focused in on it, and it was super fun.
Mavericks really sort of changed the game because so many of the big wave spots before that were in Hawaii, and it was warm water, typically like clear skies,
Yeah.
sunshine. And then Mavericks came around and it was like gray, cold as hell, sharky, NorCal rugged, the rocks, everything. It was such a different thing than what was like the big wave realm before that.
Yeah. No, I feel like the water, just like the water is just thicker
Yeah.
or something,
Yeah.
and like I remember going to Hawaii and punching through my boards and going, God, it's like a swimming pool. It was so nice without the wetsuit and without the buoyancy and all that stuff. I definitely felt like I was way more comfortable in Hawaii, just like in the ocean, because it was just like, felt like I was in a pool,
Yeah.
until I got, completely beat at Waimea a few times. Then I was like, oh, okay, it's not like a pool. But I just feel like the water at Mavericks is just super thick and dark and just heavy, or like there's sediment in it or something.
Yeah.
It's like hitting cement more.
No,
Yeah.
it looks that way. And then, so it was this sort of new thing, and Jeff Clark had, been the pioneer of it and it opened up. And then I remember the media at the time. I was writing for surf magazines at this time, and there was that one cover of Surfer magazine, and then not long after that, Mark Fu died out there,
Mhm.
and it was like the first warning of this is dangerous stuff.
Yeah, this is no joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you around that day? Were you around that time?
So that week, Mavericks broke pretty much all week. Monday was huge. Wednesday was huge. And then Friday was the cleanest, smaller day. And that's when Mark Fu died.
Okay.
So I surfed on Monday and Wednesday, and I was like, I'm good, like I have this, I had a relationship with Mavericks where I was just like, felt like I didn't want to be greedy at all. I would get my waves, have my session, feel comfortable about just going home in one piece,
Yeah.
So I wasn't trying to be, every swell I need to get up there and get my waves. You know what I mean? I wanted to really, I liked having that relationship with Mavericks where I was just like, okay, I'm going to get my waves and have my session and go home and, and just kind of feel it out more,
Yeah.
So I didn't go up on Friday. And that was just such a sad time,
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
surfing. So
Yeah. Did that change anything for you? Did it make you more cautionary when you're out in the water?
No, definitely not. Like I felt so super comfortable out there, and I just when you have a really bad wipeout at Mavericks or any big wave spot, you just had to like get back on the horse and like get back out there and just catch a couple waves, just get back in the swing of things,
Sure. Yeah.
And we didn't really know the dangers of Mavericks, back then because we weren't wearing flotation.
Yep.
We had these huge leashes that not quick release, and we were learning as we went, So when Mark Fu died, I think it brought some attention like, oh, this is serious, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But for myself, I just feel like it didn't phase me that much, because we felt so comfortable out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
With the one thing I've observed with big wave surfers, there are many different ways to do it, but at one end of the spectrum would be someone who's very calculated, watching the swells, training, diet, etc., doing all the sort of right things. And then the other end of the spectrum would be the ones who's it's almost like I don't want to think about it too much. I'm just going to do it.
yeah.
Where'd you sort of fit into that?
I was definitely just going.
It seemed that way.
Richard Schmidt's that calculated person. And for me, I was that person that was just like, I'm going. Like, if I'm going to paddle for this wave, I'm going. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like you can't second guess yourself.
Yeah.
And for me, I didn't really, honestly, didn't really care if I died.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I don't care if I die. And I would say that to myself. I don't. And I care now.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think, one of my good friends is Ross Clark Jones, who's a great big wave surfer who I'm sure you know.
Yeah.
And Ross and I've done various profiles of him, and we've talked about like the psychology. And for him, I almost got the sense that like everything he does, like there's the big wave surfing, which is you're dealing with adrenaline, you're like managing fear in some ways or not. But with him, I got the sense that at one point he bought like a Porsche, kept it in Germany, and would fly over and drive at high speeds. And it was almost it felt like Ross was like constantly trying to stay on the edge of it, like high levels of adrenaline and turning down the fear. Do you relate to that? Like, was your lifestyle kind of crazy?
Well, yeah. I mean, my lifestyle was just crazy with just like friends and cars and partying and chicks. And it was just, in that time in surfing for us growing up, it's so much different now. For us, it was just like, oh, these things were coming, that we didn't have before. And so it was really hard to manage as a young person.
Yeah.
But as far as like speeding around in the car and stuff, Ross Clark Jones is like an amazing ball of muscle, and I think he's at that other end too, where he knows what he's doing. He's a great surfer,
Yeah.
but he's going.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
But so, for instance, like if you knew that if the buoys or the swell forecast was showing like, okay, 4 days from now it's going to be huge, was your approach to be sort of I'm going to be calculated, I'm going to like eat a good breakfast, get a good night's sleep, or was it like I'm just going to party and just like slide into it?
The whole party thing was I wouldn't if I knew a swell was coming. We would focus,
Yeah.
but sometimes swells would show up and we had been partying too,
Yeah.
So it wasn't like we were like, oh, I don't care if it's, it wasn't like that there wasn't total lack of, focus as far as surfing went, but, it was a rumor going around like that, oh, there's a swell coming. And it wasn't look on your phone or look anywhere. It was listen to the weather box.
Yep.
So it was like, oh, it's on. Like you didn't know when it was going to hit.
Yeah.
So you were listening to that weather box constantly. And then once you heard it, it's 12, 15 hours away, so then you're like, oh, it's on,
Yeah.
And we weren't looking at the winds or anything like that. We were just like, oh, it's on. It's gonna be massive, and we're out there regardless,
Yeah.
of the winds.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing that I think of is like these days guys are calculated on when the winds are good and the swell is great, but back then it was a little more rugged,
For sure it was. If you were thinking back on Mavericks, what would be your greatest moment out there? Was it winning a contest? Was it a single wave? Was it a session? What would be like the most alive moment in your mind of surfing Mavericks?
I would just have to, winning 3 titles in a row was a really big, accomplishment for me. But I just think that finding it and experiencing it, and then just like happy when I was finished with stepping away, and like the whole relationship with Mavericks, and it's like a freak of nature, and we got to experience that in our prime for 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
And I'm just very grateful for that
Yep.
experience. So looking back on it, I'm just so amazed by the wave.
Yeah.
And I'm still so amazed by the wave, and I like to think that the level of surfing in big waves has really risen, and it's really fun to watch out there.
Yeah. Yeah. So I watched you win one of those Mavericks events. I watched very safely from the boat.
Yeah.
along with the photographers. But, surfing my entire life, I was like, I want no part of that. That is such an entirely different realm.
Yeah.
But the other side of it was among like in the middle of like giant swells, and that you described the sound, right? Like I just remember that sound. It was just rumbling, and it was just, it was really scary, but there was also like an incredible beauty to it too. Not only in the ocean, but looking inland, that Half Moon Bay area is so pretty. When you were out there away from contests, let's say it's you and Peter Mel and whatever, some of the crew, would there be moments like you're on your giant board in the massive, massive waves where you're looking around and going, this place is gorgeous?
Oh yeah. No, it was like going to the Grand Canyon or something, and that was every time we surfed it, it was ever changing, different directions and swells and winds. And I remember just watching with Pete and all those guys, watching waves break, and just all of us just screaming at the top of our lungs in amazement, you know? And there was 5, maybe 10 people out, and that was it.
Wow.
So it was, God, it's just gorgeous, watching those waves. Like the energy, you can go out there and get that same energy from the boat.
Yeah.
Just watching it going, oh my God, like this is crazy. Like look at that wave. That would kill you.
Yeah.
And it's pretty fun to be around,
Yeah. Yeah. For you, I'm sure you've done it enough times to where it's hard to even put into words, but like, what is it like? You're sitting in the lineup, you suddenly see the sort of the horizon lift and a set of waves are coming in, and you're like selecting which one you're going to whip around and paddle for. Like, how would you describe that? How does it go?
Yeah, no, basically when a wave's, set's approaching or whatever, like, you learn throughout the years. For one, like for me, like I normally don't want to go on the first wave, just in case there is a mistake. But we look at, you have to it's so easy to see a set and go, oh, I got to get out there to it. You got to pedal out to it. But like the shelf is right where you're sitting, so you have to just kind of like have it come to you. Like you have to whip it underneath it and get underneath it.
It looks like that.
Yeah. And so for us watching waves come across the reef at Mavericks, the huge sets, we were always mentioning like getting like the courtesy ramp. Where's the courtesy ramp? Like, where's that little chop we can get in onto the wave?
Yep.
And so that was a big part of Mavericks, especially with the northwest wind and sometimes it, kind of a choppy swell. We're looking for those courtesy ramps to get into the wave, but mainly just like being comfortable of just turning the board around when you see that massive wave and try to get underneath it as much as possible. So, I could feel it right now just thinking about that. It's crazy to have that confidence to do that.
No, I mean, there are certain ways where for the average person, their adrenaline starts to rise, their fear level goes up, but the Mavericks is in an entirely different realm. And having only watched from the channel, but it definitely looks like what you described, where it stands up and you really, I mean, does it feel like you're kind of almost going beyond vertical on the drop?
Yeah. I mean, if you can get in early, you got it, you know what I mean? But just making that commitment and getting in early. And now, back then, we were mainly, the bowl was kind of the spot we were getting into the waves. And now that's kind of changed to where guys are like sitting a little further out to the right, where Pete got that wave, that getting their best waves,
Yeah.
So it's kind of changed a little bit, I think the playing field's gotten bigger a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, just for us, that the bowl was the spot. Yeah.
And what was your worst wipeout?
My worst wipeout was, well, I ate it. I like poked on the first wave of the set, and then I popped up out the back. I didn't get sucked over. And that next wave was one that no one wanted. It was 25 feet and the guys were scratching over it. And I was right in the bowl. And I was like, oh my gosh, like the worst situation ever. So I just started swimming at the wave. Like I got to get under the lip. And then the lip went over, and my board, I had a 20-foot quarter, 15-foot quarter, 20-foot quarter, whatever. And I didn't pull the board close to me before I dove down. So it was all the way out. So when the lip landed on the board, it broke the board and pulled me back through. Like probably was going to go back through anyways, because it was, I wasn't swimming very fast with that big of a wave. And then I just got beat all the way through, wave after wave, to the rocks.
Wow. And
in the rocks, I had my leash on, and my board was 20 foot away, my half a board, and the leash got caught on the rocks. And then basically just flattening me out for like 7 waves, where I thought like, I'm dead. I'm going to die right here. And luckily, I think the leash broke or something like that. I was on a barnacle and maybe broke, and I got through the rocks. But that night, like I like cried because I thought I was that close to like death.
So you have these like avalanches of whitewash coming over you, and you're ducking under and you're holding your breath. I mean, was there a thing, having been an experienced guy who's ridden a lot of big waves, was it this, are you telling yourself like, calm your mind?
I was fine. Like taking the waves on the head, because it's just like I had to do it. And I was fine with that. It's just the whole rock thing where I got stuck on the rocks. That was the heaviest thing. And, I think it was on Real TV or something crazy, but I learned so many things from just that one wipeout, that really helped me.
What'd you learn?
With my big wave surfing? Just basically, make sure that you're going to make it. If you're going to go on the first wave of the set, especially at Mavericks, and get that board a little closer to you before you swim under a wave. If you're trying to like get under it, since it was stretched out, my leash, and take your leash off before you go through the rocks. That's the biggest thing. Yeah. Because this is a 15-foot thick 1/4-inch cord that is, dangling under the water.
Yep.
So those 3 things. And like I mentioned before about getting back on the horse, and, after that happened, I was like, I got to get back up there, because that shook me up hard.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so you won 3 events at Mavericks, and then where did your relationship with Maverick go from there?
Yeah, no, I mean, every event that I won, it was helping me out with sponsors and things like that, and then after the third one, sponsors were great, and it just seemed like the party was happening a lot more often. A lot of people wanted to be around me. I had plenty of money. Like everything was like really going good. So that's kind of after that. I mean, I think I wish I would have had just some more focus or some maybe some more support with like what to do, because I felt like I was just a young person that really didn't have anything, and then I had something, and I like, was just like, whoa, I wasn't being smart at all with the direction, Yeah. So yeah, that the party scene kind of got a little more just hectic and seemed like more often.
When you say the party kept going, was it like house parties? Were you going
Yeah,
clubbing? Were you?
Yeah, no, it's just like I had a house, and I could have all my friends over and chicks over and dance parties and have fun, and go downtown. And we were just like living the fun life as young, surfers in Santa Cruz. And, I think I think I lost focus of what was important in my life and kind of what got me there,
Yeah.
and it was fun to hang out with, chicks and party and do, go downtown and play pool, and everybody wanted to be around me. And our group was really kind of the group to be around,
Yep.
so it was, looking back on that though, it's just, I feel like I was cocky, loud jerk a lot of the time, like looking at yourself, like looking at myself now in that situation, like I'll see some of the little videos I have and different things from other people, and I'm like, God, I don't really like that person. You know what I mean? So it's good to see that though. It makes you realize like, wow, like you really got to take a look at yourself from time to time and make sure you're doing all the right things that you want to be doing.
Yeah, for sure. When did you realize it was going too far and too fast and everything?
Probably when I got hurt. It kind of like started when I got hurt at the Eddy, hurt my knee, and so I wasn't surfing, and I was kind of partying a little, like didn't have much to do, and then followed that by just partying. Really, it's just like lost focus on like what was important.
Yeah,
like guys that these days they hurt their knee at the Eddy, they go rehab it and they're ready to go in 4 months. You know,
yep.
And I was still rehabbing my knee, but it wasn't like, oh, I need to get back in, I didn't have that drive to get to where I was before necessarily, I don't think.
And what year was that you injured your knee in the Eddy?
Yeah, it was 2004. And so I missed the 2005 Mavericks contest.
Okay.
Because I was hurt.
And did you wrench your knee out did a lip land on your head?
Yeah, I was going to pull into a wave, and then I saw, it's going to it's not going to barrel or whatever. So I tried to go down and around, and it hit me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Didn't you have an incredible wipeout at Waimea?
Yeah, that was like the heat before the wave I got hurt.
I remember that. I remember the photograph. In fact, I almost want to say I have a shot of that, but I didn't have the long lens. But you're just like flying out of you jumping out of like a 5-story window.
Yeah.
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 How was that wipeout?
Yeah. I missed the first wave, and then I just told myself, I'm going on this wave. And, it was just like cliff jumping off Steamer Lane. I just jumped and hoping that I was going to penetrate. And I got really, really beat. Thank God for, water safety. My jersey got ripped off. My shorts almost got ripped off, but board got broken, but I was fine, Went in, got another board, came back out. That wipeout was, I wasn't really thinking like it was that big of a deal.
Yeah.
But then when you know, when I saw the photos and the talk around it and stuff like that, they're like, this is a nuts deal, you know?
Yeah, it was almost. It was. I remember it so distinctly, and it was. I remember in the movie Big Wednesday, the surfer Bruce Raymond, who became a friend later, was hired to basically purposely wipe out for the camera. Yours almost looks like, Flea, go out there and just throw us the worst wipeout you possibly can.
Yeah, definitely.
So when you say you are partying too much, are you how drinking too many beers?
Yeah, we were just basically, you know, we were just like drinking a lot of like hard alcohol and just basically going out to the clubs and stuff like that. And I think cocaine was a big thing, you know, kind of sweeping through. Everyone was kind of doing it. So we were doing that a little bit. And then, you know, surfing was always there during the day. It's not like we like drink alcohol or anything and surfed. So we were surfing all day, but then at night we were just like, oh, it's on. Let's get where are we going? You know what I mean? And we weren't like thinking, oh, I want to feel good tomorrow. Like we were just like, let's, you know.
Yeah.
And then we would surf all day the next day, you know.
Yep.
Until like I started like smoking meth.
Yeah.
And when I started smoking meth, I didn't want to surf. I was just like, I didn't want to be around people.
Yep.
And I wasn't hanging out at the lane, you know. I would want to go surf, but go surf up coast. You know, that the meth thing really changed how I looked at where I wanted to be.
Yeah, and the meth thing really hit hard in Santa Cruz, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, when do you remember sort of how like it went from drinking a lot of beer to a couple lines of coke to now I'm suddenly like smoking meth?
Yeah, I think it was pretty like you know, a few years. Everybody in the whole industry drinks and does coke. You know that.
Yeah.
It's not some Santa Cruz thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's everywhere.
Yeah.
You know.
A lot of surf culture has come from that. And I mean, it even goes back to like the smuggling that was happening. And
It's, you know, that whole thing, it was like they were stoked that I was going to the trade show to party and have fun and go crazy. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I got paid to do is be that crazy person.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And, you know, that was fun and fine and everything like that. But when I think when I started smoking meth, I was just like, it changed how I thought about things. And that's what drugs do. They change your mind and they make you think differently. And all of a sudden I thought I was an artist and, you know, and spray painting cans and all kinds of crazy stuff. And looking back, it's just so nuts what that drug kind of does to people, you know?
Did it hit you quickly? Like, did you, the time from sort of the first time you smoked it to where you were like, holy shit, I'm an addict and I haven't surfed in a month and I've been locked in this.
Well, I wasn't like the addict smoking meth and not surfing. I was just surfing different weird spots up coast and like with my drug friends that, you know, we go to some beach for the day or whatever. And so it wasn't like I wasn't surfing at all, but I was definitely like not doing what I needed to do as far as being a professional sponsored surfer.
Yeah.
You know, and lack of sleep and lack of, you know, hygiene and all the things that you disregard.
Yeah.
It changes your whole, you know, approach to things.
So how did you go from partying too hard to sobriety?
Yeah. So basically I knew once I started smoking meth, I go, oh, this has got me, you know what I mean? It had a handle on me. So I knew deep down that I needed help, you know, and I probably couldn't do it by myself. So you know, my family got together and had an intervention. I was pissed about it because they're lying to me, you know, and all that, how people get when they get interventions. And then I just realized, you know, like I need to like do this, you know, and basically gave myself 2 weeks and I said, okay, in 2 weeks, I'm going to go. And huge bag of meth, gallons of vodka. And it was just crazy for 2 weeks.
Wow.
But that day that I said I was going to go, I went. Even under all those conditions for myself, I feel like for myself, like if I commit to doing something like surf Mavericks or do airs or have a family or, start a sober living called FleaHab. Like, I feel like addicts have drive more than other people sometimes because they did mess up and go down the wrong road and do cocaine and screwed a bunch of people and messed up lives and all that thing. But if they can focus that energy and turn it around and like focus on a good thing,
Yeah.
they're going to be golden.
And I see that. And I mean, having watched you and I was I was at Surfing Magazine as the editor during the time that you were winning those events at Mavericks. There was an extraordinary amount of focus on something that scared the hell out of me, but it was a healthy, quote unquote, healthy thing to be doing compared to, sitting in a room doing drugs.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you would have known that was inside, there was a side of you that like had this resolve, you could like put your fist down, clench your fist and like get where you needed to go.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I felt, and it felt good that I made that decision and had the support from my wife, Onawa, that you just met.
Yeah.
She's been there through the whole thing.
But when did you guys meet? And
we met partying, at Barney's house. She was an artist.
Okay.
She's a really good artist. And, Barney's a artist.
Yep,
and they were
Barney.
like,
so
she was over at Barney's painting, and I would be like, oh, what? Who's over there? Oh, now is over there, and so I'd want to go over there and hang out, and so we met there, and we were dating for about a year, through probably my worst time of my drug addiction, and then a year later I went to rehab and made the changes I needed to make, and we've been together ever since.
There's a theory that meeting a relationship person, starting a relationship when you're in a low place can be a really good place to start.
Yeah. No, yeah, and it feels good to actually like look back and like see where we came from and how much we've grown and what we've accomplished together and what we've made together.
Just I want to get back into getting clean. But Barney was such a great figure in the Santa Cruz surf scene. And I was such a fan. He was such an innovative surfer, such an original person. I remember there was one clip where he was really good at handstands and he could walk on his hands. And he was kind of like, he was freakishly loose on the board and he was kind of freakishly loose on land too. He was like oozing creativity. When did Barney pass away? What year was it?
Barney passed away in 2015.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this was after you'd gotten clean.
I was clean.
Okay. Okay.
And, Barney was still being Barney a little bit.
Yep.
And as much as I tried to be a good influence, it was tough,
Yeah.
But yeah, Barney was, man, it's losing your best friend is really tough,
Yep.
And, it's like this void that's just gone. And I have a hard time even talking about it because he was such a special person,
Yeah. I grew up as an amateur competitor and I surfed in some of the cold water classics. There were some great surfers out of Santa Cruz, but when you were part of a generation in the early 90s where I guess like airs and reverses and a lot of kind of play on the wave was new. And there was a moment when Tony Roberts was photographing a lot of it. And you guys were like, there was so much momentum coming out of Santa Cruz. And what was really interesting was you guys were able to sort of fly across a tiny wave and hit the ramp and twirl in the air. And then you could also like grab a 710 and surf giant Mavericks.
Yeah.
Or even a bigger board. But it was like, it was this range that I'd never seen before because the generation I grew up, there was Richard Schmidt, there was Vince Collier, et cetera. And they were great surfers. And Richard Schmidt, by the way, was one of my favorite guys out at Sunset in Hawaii. But in those crappy, tiny waves, because you guys get good waves here, there was less, they were maybe less skillful in that realm than they were in like heavy water.
Yeah.
But you guys kind of had that whole thing. And I remember Barney being kind of at the forefront of all of that.
Yeah, no, we wanted to be well-rounded surfers.
Yeah.
And we used to say 2 to 20, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
2 foot to 20 foot. Let's do this.
Yeah.
Now it's a little different, 2 to 40 foot.
Yeah.
But and we really took pride in that, and being able to do that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you get the bag, you get the vodka, you go, I'm going to go on this tear for a bit. And then this one day I'm going to go check myself in and get myself clean.
Yeah.
How'd that go?
that was it was good. I tried to smuggle weed into the place and cigarettes, stuffing it in the way down there to the Beacon House, and it's just stupid stuff you do. But making that decision is like was the biggest kind of turning point in my life for sure.
And what year was that?
That was 2008.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know the day?
Yeah, it's August 25th. But yeah, just coming out of that and like having surfing, I think that's a good point we could talk about. It's just like I had surfing. So like I could just be I lost all my sponsors. I didn't have any sponsors. Surfing was like my pro surfing career was over. I was still invited to the Eddie and this and that, but I had no money.
Mhm.
So I felt like, you know what? This is like I want surfing to be fun for me again. I want surfing to be that special thing that I had when I was a kid.
Mhm.
Not this like job that I have to like go do this and go do that. And you know what I mean? Like I didn't want to chase it at that point in my life. I was 37 years old. I was older, getting older, and I was just like, I just need surfing to be my playful, fun place.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I decided to just to go that different direction and try to figure out how I could make some money as a normal person, and so I kind of pushed my energy towards that different direction, and that helped me out a lot, I think.
What was your biggest lesson from rehab and from getting sobriety and then working the steps and everything? What qualities have come out of you that weren't there before?
Yeah, I feel like just being a better person, and sometimes those old qualities come out and you're a dick in the water or whatever, you know what I mean? Or on the road, you get pissed off or whatever. Like you still have those kind of character defects, but I think mainly just being a better person and really thinking about it and trying to be a better person for me. And it's not when you go change your life with rehab or whatever, you're not just like, I'm quitting drinking. Okay, I quit drinking. I'm good. It's like, how can you turn into a better person, treat people more kindly, help other people? You know what I mean? It's for me, that was it.
Yeah.
And that's what felt good is like, gosh, like looking at myself when I in some of those videos and going, gosh, he guy's cocky,
Yeah.
and not wanting to be that. So
Yep.
making those changes, I feel like it's a whole spectrum of things.
Sure.
It's not just the drugs and the alcohol that you're changing. It's being a better person. How could you help people? Not beating yourself up when those old character defects come out and things like that. Giving yourself a break.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yep.
And just seeing how you can just show people there's a different direction too. Because for me, just being someone that is changing my life, and it's not, I don't ever want to be the person that's going to tell someone like, "Hey, you're blowing it," even though maybe sometimes we do.
Yeah.
But is just kind of lead by example. And
Yeah.
just like, "Hey, how's things going? Oh, I'm doing good. It feels good. Surfing every day. And people come to me to talk to me about things because they know where I'm at in life,
Mhm.
So without even having to go out and actually say something to someone or whatever, you see everything happening.
Yeah.
I know everything that's happening in Santa Cruz and what people are doing and everything.
Mhm.
So it's cool that people can feel comfortable asking for help and stuff like that too.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Just
Yeah. And so let me just say up the front, FleaHab is such a great name. I mean, because when I first saw, I was like checking you out online, and I was like, oh, he's got FleaHab. What a perfect name! And it's sort of like rehab can sound real heavy, but what FleaHab like makes it kind of fun.
Yeah.
How did FleaHab come about? And tell us about that.
Yeah. So I wanted to help people, and show them there's a different, way to go. And I feel like exercise, surfing, biking, hiking, camping, fishing, art, anything that we have, a lot of times, addicts kind of suppress the things that they like doing once they start doing drugs, and it kind of goes to the wayside, a little bit. And so I think just kind of resurrecting it and bringing it back out and bringing it back into their lives and showing people like, hey, what did you like to do? I was a really good tennis player one time. Well, you should get back into that a little bit, and that can help people so much. So I feel like that's what I wanted FleaHab to be, somewhere like we could focus on like exercise and getting those daily, having that daily habit of exercising, going to a meeting if you need to go to a meeting, daily, healthy eating, stuff like that,
Yep. So is FleaHab specifically for recovery? Is it a recovering addict or is it a surf school as well? If you're
No, I'm actually doing some surf coaching too,
Okay.
and that's been fun. But FleaHab is just a sober living environment, and I help 6 people at a time.
Okay.
We just have one house manager, 6-bedroom house. We have surfboards, there's wetsuits. People donate wetsuits and surfboards to help out. So there's things there for the guys, to use, and there's no excuses. We can find stuff really,
Yep.
So yeah, that, and yeah, the food is, they get they eat good, they get on daily habit of exercise. It's great.
Nice. And what about being sober? Did getting sober change your drive to ride big waves?
It's actually like I've just want to surf like fun waves. I don't need to go chase Mavericks and all those places anymore.
Yeah.
I'll surf big Swift Street, big Steamer Lane, like that. I don't need to like go prove anything anymore. I feel like, it's more about just surfing fun waves.
Yep.
I like to surf 7.4s to 5.10s,
Yeah,
that's
right.
kind of my range.
When you look at, say, old video of you charging Mavericks when you were winning the events and stuff like that, do you look at it and go, that's like a different person, or do you go, I relate and I can still do that?
No, I can definitely still do it.
Yeah.
I know I can go out to Mavericks and catch waves. That's never something that I know I don't think I can do. That's not why I stopped going up there. It's basically, I'm just happy and content with where I'm at.
Yep.
And I don't feel like I want to ever like fight the crowd to catch a wave,
Yeah.
And I'm not throwing myself into those situations where there's 40, 50 people and we're trying to catch a wave.
Yeah.
I've had so many good waves at Mavericks, and that's what's important to me, is feeling comfortable, stepping away and going, I had fun up there. That was great.
Yeah.
And that was that relationship. But now it's about my kids.
Yep.
It's totally about my kids, and my wife, and I live like a block away from Steamer Lane.
Yeah, I noticed. That's so great.
It's just like I'm living in the best place that I could live in Santa Cruz right now, and I'm just enjoying it.
Yep. Well, it's great talking to you about all this. Is there anything that we haven't touched on that you want to talk about?
No, just it's good to ask for help. If you're someone out there that is having some problems or whatever, just don't be scared to reach out and ask for help. And there's lots of people that are willing to listen and, not beat you down, and show you a different path.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's great seeing you after all these years.
Yeah. It's good to see you.
Thanks, Flea.
That's fun.
Soundings is produced by me, Jamie Brisick, and Jonathan Shiflett. You can find it on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Our theme song is Give Me a Wave by Oscar Matsumiya and Poslin Chanton. Soundings is brought to you by the Surfer's Journal, a reader-supported publication made possible by sponsorship from FCS, Finisterre, Howler Brothers, Patagonia, Rainbow, Vans, and Yeti. The journal is published bi-monthly. If you haven't done so already, I encourage you to visit surfersjournal.com and subscribe. Thank you so much for listening to Soundings. We appreciate you. Until next time.